Hey guys, it has been a bit, but as you can see here, we are on a rogue. Not gonna lie, it's been harder to play the level 100 Druid, obviously, because there's less to do. I still actually need to level my glyphs and stuff, but I wanted to make a video on this rogue because I've actually had so much fun with it, and the build is so fun to play. I actually took some guidance from Woody Joe on this one with his current barrage build, and this is like the only build I really know I've only played, and it's so fun. The rogues are so mobile. I essentially chose the rogue first so that I can go and unlock all the altars of Lilith really fast, as well as get renown. So I did the first 3 renown points for all areas, and then I'm just passively doing side quests and obviously dungeons as I get to them. I'll target these Paragon points and actually finish them probably sooner than later now. I'm actually level 70, and this happened super quick. I got power level to 50 and then started playing really from there, but it's honestly been a blast, and leveling up and playing with this is so fun. The movement is so good, it's fluid. I got 2 dashes essentially with these cutthroat skills, and I did actually have 4 with Shadow Step. I had the aspect that gave me 2, but I recently got Penitent Greaves. They're sacred. I was in World Tier 4 since like low level 60s, and I've been pushing content pretty easily. If I joined a friend doing a high number dungeon, I might die a couple times because, you know, they were like 12, 15 levels higher than me. But generally, it was still okay, and DPS-wise was insane. As you can see here, this is actually pretty low life. I had to really fight to get life back, and I finally got these pants, and I added 1,000 life from that. And as you can see here, I have some rubies still in there. I've been just spending a bunch of money rolling gear and stuff. So this build is far from complete. I'm just kind of have random aspects on a lot of things, but let's just show how great this is. We're actually in a PvP zone. This is a great experience and great just farming area. You can fly around so fast. And all right, as you can see, we did a quick change of clothes. The game volume was way too loud over my voice, so I decided to do a quick another recording. As you can see, we picked up some nice loot, but I wanted to showcase the kind of speed and damage and overall gameplay with this build. It's super fun and just super strong. So it's good for farming, good for power leveling, experience, farming hell tides, pushing nightmare dungeons, and doing a bunch more. And the movement on this makes the build super fun. The mobility, the dashes, you know, overall everything's so good. I actually misclicked here. Apparently, went past the bubble. But you know, you come right in and you could just blast. And actually having this immune bubble is really good for doing that as well. You know, you can go in without any risk. You're gonna jump right into a fight, kill a damage aura or suppressor. And suppressor doesn't really affect this build negatively too much either. You can just walk in and blast it. It's really cool having that like melee range rogue. But the damage is insane, the attack speed is insane. So you walk up, do 1 barrage even, and you can melt a mob or even an elite, especially if you hit a shadow step or knockback or something like that to trigger a ton more buffs. But as you see here, we come to these barrier enemies and we just start mowing them down as well. I got knocked back by something, and I was really wondering what did that. I kind of figured he was invisible, so just wanted to show that. But look at those crits, 55k, 59k, just like that. And with the attack speed, you're hitting multiple hits, especially with each barrage cast. We wanted to try some different things out just to showcase the damage, but here we're in a 4-man group of like literally 9 level higher nightmare dungeons, so the damage was a lot slower, as you can see, but we're still doing a ton of damage, especially when we're not near the other 4 guys. Generally, the damage was really good since their health is so much higher, but we just unlocked that node, so we wanted to try a little bit more, just damage up with. So we come up to these mobs, right click, and just melt them. But yeah, we wanted to try something else, so we're going to go try other things as well, like Helltides. This build is really good for pushing Helltides, farming them, getting a bunch of gear, and you're getting the cinders like crazy. I got 4 mystery chests in this run, as well as a couple regular chests, as obviously I'm just looking for loot. This build is not even complete yet, and the aspects aren't necessarily even my endgame aspects, but they're definitely fun to use and useful for this build. And look at that, you can just jump right over those barriers. I love that. I used to hate getting stuck behind barriers, especially on a Druid. So having things like Shadow Step and Dash are just awesome. The good thing about not even having Penitent Greaves is that you can actually get the 2 dashes, because then you can use an aspect for 2 Shadow Steps. So then you'll have 4 total dashes, so much mobility, tons of movement speed, and it's just really good. The rogues are really nimble and mobile, and they actually have a ton of CC as well. So we have a bunch of damage. We're clearing mobs like no problem. We use Poison Trap. We drop that. That will actually knock them down, which gives you a bunch more damage. You'll do poison damage, ticking on them. And just destroy them, and that can also trigger things like damage reduction from enemies that are poisoned. And then we also use things like dash, which will slow them or possibly stun them, and shadow step also stuns them. You trigger shadow imbue so that you can essentially mow down a whole mob at once. When you kill one monster with it, it will trigger an explosion, and that pretty much cascades and kills everyone. So you kill the first guy, that will damage the second guy, and then that guy will die, and then pretty much by the end of it, they're all dead like really quickly. So It's a super fast-paced build, super strong. As you can see, we come to these big mobs, we drop a poison trap, and if they don't die by the time that it deploys, then it deploys, and you'll do a ton more damage, and they will definitely die. So definitely fun build to use. Most boots, you can have like movement speed on the evade, so the penitent greaves leveled up, have 75% movement speed for 1 second, so you get a super nice boost of speed while after evading. Having 3 evades is also really nice for movement and generally really useful. I'm using the inner sight passive, so we attack the marked enemies, and after attacking for a bit, you get unlimited energy for 4 seconds. That works very well with the aspect that's on our two-hander, which is Edge Masters, which will give us 40% extra damage while we're full energy. So way more damage that way. And once you have an Umbral on this build, you will have pretty much full or close to full energy quite often and doing a ton more overall damage. The cool thing about this rogue is I feel that it's generally a lot easier to respec a build if you want. With the Druid, I had to redo everything from Barragon boards to every gear to everything like that. With the rogue's variety, between the builds, there isn't a crazy difference. Maybe between things like those melee skills, like those cutthroat focus skills and the marksman skills. Obviously, those are like your 2 main core damagers, so there might be some differences there, but generally you can do a lot of changes and still get very similar outputs by playing around with your builds. And then even the Paragon boards. The Paragon boards can apply pretty well as well. So like it won't cost too much to respec something that is generally very close in damage and use. And as to just respecing the whole board, which might cost a little more, might help slightly more, but generally, you can definitely get away with it. So generally, this build is really strong. As you can see, we just melted this like Helltide boss, but the only issue is if you were ever low on energy, it just slows you down quite a bit. But if you got a Ring of the Umbral, you will pretty much stay up there, and you'll be able to keep your inner sight up more often. And when you play, you actually do have to focus on those marked enemies. So jump to them if you can, and just spam your barrage, or even if there's people in front of them, spam the barrage. It'll do a lot of area effect damage and usually kill them and help you get your inner sight back. But if it's ever down, then having that aspect of the Umbral, which the Codex only gives you one energy, not worth getting. So just wait till you get a 2 to 4, hopefully a 4. I don't even have a 4 on my Druid yet, and that has 150 hours playtime. So definitely not an easy roll to get, but it's possible, especially if you're looking for rings and rolling for rings and gambling for them. So definitely a way to get them that way. But once I have that, then at that point, I'll be adding another skill to this list and getting rid of that basic attack, and most likely using Death Trap as an ultimate. But I also wanted to try, using Shadow Clone as well. So the nice thing about having Shadow Step on your bar is that it is actually an unstoppable skill. So if you kind of hold on to it in a group of elites that have some rough affixes, then you can keep it. And if they're not all dead, you can Shadow Step to somebody while you're stunned or CC'd. So I've used that quite a bit. Really nice to have. It's not like a Druid or a Barbarian where possibly you can have permanent uptime of Unstoppable up, but it's definitely not too bad as well. Obviously, you're gonna have to trade for that mobility. But yeah, you essentially just have to walk up to groups and right click. So very easy to play, and it's actually also really fun, really engaging to play. Definitely suggest this if you haven't played a rogue, or if you want to try it, then it's definitely a fun build to try. So I'm just going to leave this up for gameplay in the background, movement speed, and just kind of general gameplay how I did it, and my farming strats. Then we'll go over the items afterwards.
Look
at that. So fast. Just knock them down and one click them.
I need more time.
And one tap them. Alright, so generally, if you're doing range, you want to stick with a crossbow because you will get that 60% vulnerable damage. That's what you'll get guaranteed. And then we also have 69% extra vulnerable damage. So you want to stack as much vulnerable damage and crit damage as you can, generally with a rogue, because you can always pretty much do those 2 damages. And then for something like Barrage, it's a lot of close combat damage. You walk in and do big bursts, so definitely suggest close damage when you can. Obviously, dexterity, stack that up. So let's go over the aspects for now. Helmet, you want to get some cooldown. This definitely has a lot more opportunity in it. I want to get life, dexterity, cooldown, and I'm not sure if you can get normal attack speed. So max energy isn't bad, but it's probably not best in slot. So you definitely want cooldown and you want life. So life, cooldown, maybe main skill like dexterity. Basic skill attack doesn't matter too much. And then we got aspect of critical strikes with marksman skills will give us a chance to get free dark shrouds. That's really good. If you get a few crits, you get 5 dark shrouds. That's like 25% or more damage reduction. So very key. And then you don't need to take it on your skill bar. You don't even need to put a level into it. So you get free dark shrouds. On our chest, we want to have 4 defensive skills. So we have all stats on this one. We want to swap that out for either damage reduction, close most likely. Then we also have total armor, flat damage reduction. We only have 6%, 10% would be great. And max life. We also have a really low number here, under 600. And then for the effect here, we have the magic bubble when hit, when under healthy health. So under 80% health, then the magic bubble pops. It's nice. It's sometimes useful. It's pretty cool for PvP actually. Tested it out there. But you can also take the one that gives you a barrier when walking into Elite Pack. That only has a 30-second cooldown. That's really good. There's also other options there for like damage reduction and other stuff like that. For the gloves, you want to have +3 to 4 ranks in Barrage. This is sacred, so only +3. You want crit chance, attack speed, and lucky hit. So these are really good gloves, and obviously they're sacred until I can get an upgrade into the ancestral version. Essentially the same rolls. We're taking the distant enemies have an 8% chance to get stunned. More importantly, get 40% damage to stunned enemies. So that's a really good one. When I do Shadow Step, enemies are stunned for 2.1 seconds. So any elite will get melted as soon as you do that. It works really well. For the pants, we also want to have 4 damage reduction affixes. So we have life, we have total armor, damage reduction while injured. And then for this one, we have Poison Trap. Since I'm using Poison Trap, I decided to take it. But, you know, rather than that, you would rather have just flat damage reduction or damage reduction while close or something like that. Then we're taking Aspect of Disobedience. We only have the Codex roll here, so 25%. Really good aspect to use, and obviously once you get the 50%, you can use that as well. Or you could throw that on the Amulet for that 75% instead. But instead, for now, I'm going as much damage as I can. We are taking the core skills, give us 36% attack speed with this one, so typically 25%. On the Amulet, you want cooldown, armor, sometimes life, and then you'll also want to get 3 ranks into your passives. So I think the best passive for that with rogues would be Weapon Mastery. You know, you can get essentially 12% increased damage with the bow, or 15% crit damage with the crossbow. So it would be around another 15% crit damage, pretty good. But having in Malice is really good too. You only get, with a roll of 3, you'll only get 9% damage to vulnerable. So I think the crit damage one is better in Weapon Mastery. And then you can take a damage reduction or health or something else like that. For our weapon, we are taking, obviously, the crossbow, as I mentioned. We want vulnerable damage, we want crit strike damage, damage affected to enemies by trap skills. That one's decent, obviously not always used, but you know, that's what I got. And then we are taking the skills deal up to 40% increased damage when your primary is full. So especially once I get an Umbro, this will be a lot better. Obviously, I'll have more energy, but when my inner sight, you know, procs, we're at full energy at that point, and we do a ton of damage right there, 40% extra damage, and that's a multiplier. On the rings, we have killing a vulnerable enemy gives you up to 70% increased energy regeneration for 4 seconds, so that's really good for, you know, getting the energy back, especially without the Umbral. If you do have the Umbral, that's going to multiply to that as well, so that should be really good. For the stats for rings, you want to have crit, crit, vul, essentially, so crit chance, crit damage, and then vulnerable damage. And then the last one will have to be something else like physical damage. Could be max life. Max life is very good, so I would probably take max life in that. And then you're also going to want to have some lucky hit chance. So on the other ring, you could take lucky hit chance, crit, crit, vul. Or you could take crit damage, vulnerable, and lucky hit chance, as well as max life. So for this aspect, we have the barrage splits into 2 arrows. And, you know, it does a lot more good area effect damage. For our swords, we're taking swords here because you get crit strike damage for that. You're going to want vulnerable where you can, crit damage where you can, and then, you know, damage to crowd control, poisoned, or close would be secondary aspects that you could take there. And main stat like dexterity is not bad either. But as you can see here, damage to close, dexterity, vulnerable. For the skill, I'm taking imbuement skill has a 20% increased potency because we want to pop that shadow imbuement and pop it in the groups we're fighting up to 40%. And then the other one will be making an enemy vulnerable, has a chance to give you 9% crit strike chance. So that's just a huge crit strike chance, a lot more damage that way as well. So that's pretty much the build. The only thing I'm really looking for is an Umbral, but you can definitely play around with these aspects. So some of these are not necessary, such as the ones on the gloves or the chest. You could play around with them and try other things. So for the skills, we're taking Invigorating Strike. This is just to give us a little bit more energy at this point, as you can see here, if it's injured or crowd controlled. So having that lucky hit chance just also helps us proc a few of our lucky hits, which we can go over in a second. Then obviously we're taking our core skill as Barrage. We're going to take Ricochet, and we are going to take Improved Barrage. So every third cast makes enemies vulnerable, so guaranteed vulnerable. But I do have a couple vulnerable stacks now, so I might switch to Advanced Barrage. I'll get 20% increased crit strike chance, so even more crits, which is great, and hitting crits will also buff other things. Then we're going to take 3 points in Sturdy for that damage reduction, and then 1 point in Siphoning just to continue healing. As you can see, critically strike close enemies, so having more crit strike chance will be great for healing. Then we're going to take Shadow Step, we can take Enhanced, and then Methodical, just so we can get that stun. We're going to take 3 points in Weapon Mastery for that extra damage, and then we're going to take a point in Dash. We're going to take Enhanced Dash, and then we're going to take Disciplined, so we are slowing or dazing, so more CC. More CC equals more damage modifiers. Then we're going to take Poison Trap, Enhanced Poison Trap, and Countering to get the chance to get the reset on the imbuement. You can definitely spam through dungeons and just keep popping Poison Imbuement. Then we're going to take 3 points in Exploit, so 18% damage for 20% up till 80, and then the extra 35% when they're injured. So 55% of their total life. Then Malice, and it'll be 9% extra damage to vulnerable enemies. We're taking Shadow Crash and Consuming Shadows. Each time you kill an enemy with shadow damage, like your shadow imbuement, then you'll gain 20 energy. So usually when you're killing mobs, you stay full energy, and that's also really good for the Edgemaster aspect on the weapon. We're also going to take the 1 point in Shadow Crash just to get us in there, and a chance to stun, which will be great as well. So we do get good damage to stunned enemy. Then we take Shadow Imbuement, of course. We're going to take Enhanced Shadow, and we are going to take Mixed Shadow Imbuement, just to increase the amount of shadow damage. So once we pop it, that's 12% more damage. Then we're also going to take Deadly Venom, so just to get into debilitating toxins. So when you poison someone with Poison Trap, you take 15% less damage. Alright, so I just switched it up, but we have 15% here, so 3 points in Frigid Finesse, so 15% extra damage to chilled enemies. I actually had that just misselected, I don't know why, but we might actually take 1 point here in Chilling Weight just to increase the slow on enemies with the Penitent Greaves, and then we're going to take a point here if we can for extra crit chance to imbue skills. Then we are going to take 3 points in Trap Mastery, so 12% increased crit strike chance against vulnerable and crowd controlled enemies, so a lot better to hit those crits. Innervation, up to 10% chance to gain energy, and that is a lucky hit. And then we also have another second wind to whenever you spend energy, you get increased lucky hit chance, so also helps you get that energy back. Then we're taking Adrenaline Rush for some more movement speed, but more importantly Haste to get 15% more movement speed at max energy, or 15% attack speed. Either way, you'll either have 50% attack speed or movement speed, both really good. And then currently for our key passive, we're taking Precision. This one just essentially just gives us more crit damage, which is really nice. Once we get an Umbral, we're going to switch Invigorating Strike for an ultimate skill, which will be Death Trap. And since it's a trap skill, we're going to take that and we're going to use Exposure so that we get reduced active cooldowns on it, as well as some more damage with those grenades. You can also consider something like Shadow Clone. I think that'll be really fun, and then you can use the Shadow Clone aspect. That's this one here I have in my inventory here. Your Shadow Clone will mimic the imbuements applied to your skills, so that's really cool. And they also get 16% extra damage. This sounds really fun, and at that point, you might not necessarily need Exposure, but those trap damage skills will be really nice. You're still using Poison Trap, but I'll most likely stick with Precision. And since you're doing close combat a lot anyways, you could also consider Close Combat Quarters. Momentum works well. They all really work really good. So that's the thing with this build. I think that any key passive really works. Victimize is also cool. It might stack with your Shadow Imbuement if you're not doing enough damage. So that's only if you're really doing higher level Nightmare dungeons, because otherwise your Shadow Imbuement will pop everyone. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll go over the Paragon boards really quickly. I just started mine, but I'll leave a more complete one in the description. For our starting guard, we're going to take Combat. This will give us the chance to restore energy more, especially without Umbral. That's why I'm taking it first. And then in the next board, we're going to take the Deadly Ambush one. So we do more damage, crit damage to these trapped enemies, and we're going to trap a lot, obviously, with Poison Trap. And then we're going to take Exploit. Exploit's very good. Make sure that they're vulnerable and do more vulnerable damage. We're going to take these rare nodes here. We're going to take 12% extra damage reduction here by these enemies. We're also going to get some reduced arm time in your trap skills. Helps a little bit, just to make it pop a little quicker. Then the next one we're taking Exploit, and we're going to continue down this tree here. Here we got Exploit Weakness to get up to 15% more damage to vulnerable enemies. So especially it'll just help you murder bosses. Most other elites and monsters will die instantly. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much it. This is my Green Arrow character as close as possible. I need to find a better helmet / hood to to make him look a little more accurate, but you know, it's working, and I've had a ton of fun with this build, especially coming from a Druid. The Druid got really fun once I started the Werewolf build, so essentially any build that has good movement speed is really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope this one was helpful. If you guys haven't had a chance to play the Rogue yet, let me know what you guys think, and you know, if you're gonna give it a try. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.